you been, bruh?
Oh, been ever so slightly chaotic, mate. How about yourself?
Yeah, much of the same. Much of the same. And
So what
yeah,
you been
last
doing?
last month we had two trips we took for the lodge. One was to Winchester, and the
Hmm.
other was to Blacksburg. So that's Blacksburg is like the far southwest corner of Virginia. But apparently there's another couple hundred miles further, the little hump of Virginia. But we're almost to that point. And then Winchester is like the northernmost part of the state, almost
Yeah.
in Maryland. So
And Winchester is actually also an incredibly beautiful city in the UK with a
yeah.
fantastic 1,000-year-old cathedral.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we stole a lot of names when we
Yeah,
started
well,
naming things.
towns, aren't you, really?
I
To
know there's an
Americans,
old
but
York
anyway.
somewhere. The interesting thing I asked about Winchester because it didn't seem like a lot of people live there, and like,
Mm.
why is this significant? Because it's like the headquarters for several Masonic groups and all this.
Yeah.
Is it was the furthermost western city. It was literally the end of civilization. I mean, you go right outside town and you're running into Indians and wildlife, and there's no totally untamed land for like, I don't know, 50 or 100 years. So like Winchester became a major hub for travelers and whatever. So, but it's still a small town. But apparently they've got a
Yeah.
lot of IT like data farms and stuff going on. There's a lot of actual high tech work out there, but it's still like a small town. So it's kind of neat. Good morning, Dimiter.
Ah, the man has arrived.
Yes.
Good morning, brother Christopher. Good morning, brothers Brian and Rick. How are you guys?
Good. I have more than two people today, so we're doing good. Last time, just me up to be there, it's like, where is everybody? So yeah, I ended up canceling because literally there's no one here, and I'm like, I'm not going to just be the only audience. I'm sorry. You deserve an audience.
It's always a pleasure. Don't worry. How are you?
Good, good. Yeah, I was telling
Well,
them had a lot of travels last month, and so this month I don't have any. I don't know if I have any actual meetings to go to, so I'm trying to take care of other stuff. I got this one Zoom meeting. I think that's all I have in April,
mhm,
so that's all I'm
mhm.
doing.
Nice,
Let's
nice.
see. That's that, and I'm just looking ahead. I don't know what John Meek's doing. I gotta ask him. Just looking at my notes, looking ahead here. Let's see. Move the participants over here. Take Brian and make him a lovely co-host.
Gosh, thank you.
And get my chat window open.
Brother Brian, long time no see.
It certainly is.
I,
I've
how
been
are you?
following you on Facebook and sort of reading your adventures and that. It's always fascinating.
Yeah, it certainly is from time to time. I mean, you just have to decide what you want to do next.
Exactly.
It's always like that. Where are you now? In England? No?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Hi.
Let's see. Just getting all my stuff here. That one. Oh, I did just finish up a paper, well, the first draft of it, which was the key because I was worried I was never going to finish it. I'm going to be speaking at our Scottish Rite Conference. Oh, good morning, Brother Finn. Hey. I'm going to be speaking at our Scottish Rite Conference in September. We usually have like Admiral Sizemore and people like that giving talks, but I managed to persuade one of the vice presidents to let me give a talk. So against his better judgment, I'll be speaking to a group of like 200 of us in September. So that had me freaked out because I hadn't written the paper yet. And it was like, I've known for like 2 years. And I'm like, okay, time to sit down and knock that paper out. So it's not like July and August and you're trying to get it done. So it's really cool, though. It's all about the angelic hierarchy and stuff. And it should be most interesting. So got the first draft done. So I'm relieved. Now I just have to edit it a few more times and it should be great. So
Can you send it out when you deliver that speech?
I might. I don't know. I might put it in a book. I don't know.
It's something I'm working on also. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Generally, the papers I'm sending out here are at least a few years old. Sometimes if I write something, I'll go ahead and publish it, but mainly like the letters, the papers we send every week are from several years ago. Because I heard someone complain once.
Yep.
It's like you should never let people have a copy of a talk that's going to be in lodge or it's just in lodge because then they'll stay home and not go to the meeting. And I was like, well, there's something to be said for that. But really, I'm reaching people all over the world here. So it's not like any of y'all are going to show up at a meeting. But I try to make sure the papers are at least a couple years old because there's so many old ones I want to share, before I share the new ones. But usually if I write it, I'll put it out there. So, anywho, so what you been up to, Brother Finn? You're on mute.
Yeah.
There we go. Do you hear me?
Yep.
Aye.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Welcome, Dimiter. Nice to see you.
Thank you,
buddy.
Brother Finn. Thank you.
Just trying to enjoy this fine weather and trying to not look at my backyard. My grass is probably a foot tall by now. So, and I know what I'll be doing after this meeting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My son went out and cut the grass yesterday, so that was good.
Well, we've had about 4 inches of rain in the last 24 hours, so I'm not touching our grass.
Yeah, we've had a good bit of rain here lately. Oh man, so what else is going on in the world? We have our next stated coming up next month, and it will probably be our last one at Babcock. I think since we met last, we're looking to move from Babcock Lodge, which is where Research Lodge has always met, to the Masonic Home, which is a couple miles down the road. And we had our meeting in February, Brother Fenn was there. But the Masonic Home built a permanent room for Meridian Lodge to meet and then for any Masonic body to meet. So it's all set up as a lodge room, stays that way, and they let any lodge come and use it. And, it's free, but they'll take a donation, But it being in the home, it means that the residents of the home can just walk down the hall and attend a meeting. So I think it's going to be good for us to move out of the building we're in. Plus, Babcock is an older building. There is no elevator. There's like real tall stairs, and they have one of those chair lifts that I've never seen actually work. So I don't know if it even works. So it just might actually make it easier for people to attend. So this might be our last meeting in May at Babcock. So that's exciting that we're moving. Brother Ray, you're on mute.
Thank you. Good morning. Where is Babcock?
Babcock is in Highland Springs, Richmond.
Oh, okay. All right. Good.
Now you're on mute again. You're back on mute, Ray.
There I am. Okay.
How you doing?
I was having the same trouble last night when I was having a Timberman Temple Corporation meeting. I got in here just a moment late. We're considering vacating our building as well. And so because all of the Northern Virginia buildings are well underutilized.
Yes.
When we use them once or twice a month, some use them every week, but only for a minimal amount of time. That's still an underutilization of the structures. So we're kind of planning on other things to do with the building.
Really?
It's in long-range planning right now. But Babcock is meeting in which lodge down there?
Well, no. We're Virginia Research Lodge that I'm talking about.
Right.
Babcock owns their own building, and we've been renting from them since our inception back in '52. So we've always been there at Babcock, and we're looking to move to the Masonic Home, is what I was saying.
Oh, that would be quite a move.
I think it's actually better for us, but now I am a little disappointed. I had hoped to look into getting us our own aprons, because Research Lodges usually borrow the aprons of wherever lodge you're meeting in. And I'm like, well, if we're going to be traveling some, we want to have our own set of aprons. I was trying to obtain a copy or a set of aprons from one of the lodges in Richmond that have since folded, because you're supposed to surrender your jewels and aprons back to the Grand Lodge. And if they hadn't been repurposed, I'd like to get a set. Like if we get a set of aprons from one of the lodges that folded like 100 years ago or more. I think it'd be really cool, just the historical thing. But apparently, any lodge that did that, they're the property of the museum, and they aren't going to let them go out again. So we have to buy a new set. But that was my idea. I thought it'd be cool. I may ask around in this area and see if there's an old set of work aprons from one of the older lodges here that we might get, just because it's more historic. Instead of just buying a new set. We can always buy a new set, but I wanted something a little cooler for us.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, some of the older stuff was much cooler.
Yep. I think I'll need to do that. Just survey the lodges. I mean, it's not, we can afford it if we have to buy aprons. What aprons are on? Anybody had to buy aprons lately for their lodge? Any idea how much they run? I haven't even priced them.
Yeah, aprons will cost you anywhere from $800 to $1,800.
That's what I figured. Okay.
And for a full set of aprons, we've got a guy up here also sells aprons, and he can the daytime lodge up here is going to buy new aprons.
Oh, okay.
From him and like that. So if you ever need aprons or
definitely, I'll let you know.
I will inquire around, see if any of the lodges in Northern Virginia here have aprons for that they're willing to give away.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. Yeah, because it's more significant. Like there was at least 3 lodges I know of in Richmond. Michael can tell us that have folded since they're like number 10. I think folded a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And I would love to get a set of aprons from way back then, just because they're historic, and we'll be able to tell the story. It's like these belong to, Richmond Lodge number 10 or whatever that was. I mean, I think that's more in fitting with a research lodge, I think, to have some historic aprons as is buy new ones,
Yeah.
Plus they look cool. Norfolk number 1 has some. Norfolk has the Master's Jewel is like a 5-pointed star or something. It's kind of crazy. They have way different jewels going on in Norfolk Lodge that are their working jewels. They have their formal ones for the stateds, but their working jewels are just really old and they don't even line up. They're very interesting. So
wow.
I think that they're not going to, Norfolk won't give theirs up, but I mean, I know some other lodges might retire theirs, and we don't even need like stewards,
need 7 officers maybe. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I have all the officers except stewards. We're not bothering because we usually have our meetings catered, and it's hard to fill the chairs, right? But like when we were at Richmond, where we used Meridian's jewels, I think we're missing I think the chaplain or something. We were missing at least one, and we had to just wear something else because we didn't have enough jewels and aprons to go around. And that's their set that we borrowed, but they seem to be missing one. I can't remember what it was.
Well, if the daytime lodge gets new aprons, I'll push them for their old aprons for you.
I would appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's after 10. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to Virginia Research Lodge's April unstated meeting, April 19th, 2025. My name is Chris Douglas. I'm Worship Master of Virginia Research Lodge this year. And we see we have 9 people here, so that's enough to get started. I just posted in the chat the links if anyone here is not on our Facebook page. First link is to the Facebook page, and then there is the Research Lodge website, our new YouTube channel specific to the Research Lodge, and then my email if you're not on Facebook and you want to get a hold of me and get on our mailing list. I also want to say hi to Brother Michael when you came in. I don't think I said hi. I love what you've done with the little pond behind your house. I think that looks really nice. The gazebo came in really nicely. That's good. What is that from? You're on mute. You're still on mute. Yeah. I like what he's done with the house.
That's from Bulgaria. I picked a Bulgarian.
Is it? Oh, awesome. Okay, that's very cool. And Brother Paul, good to have you here. And Brother Jose.
Thank you.
Nice to have you with us. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Brother Dimiter. I am sorry. I did apologize to him. We had 2 people here last night, me and him, and we gave it about 15 minutes, and then someone emailed me, I think, like 20 minutes later. I think daylight savings time screwed us up as well. That happens when we change and other countries haven't changed. I hate daylight savings time. It throws everything for a loop. So anyway, we asked him to come back, and if Brother Shelby was here, I would tell him thank you for letting me bump you from the spot, and you won't even know it if I didn't tell you, but Shelby was scheduled for this day, and then I figured it makes sense to bring Dimiter in, and I'll book Shelby later in the year. The nice thing about the Zoom meetings is until I announce them, you guys have no idea what I have scheduled. So I could totally change it around all year long, and I still look like I know what I'm doing because, hey, here's our guy this week. So anyway, but we do have the rest of the year planned. I think I've got 2 spots in November I'm trying to fill, but we pretty much have the year planned out. And we're basically doing 1 a month. Sometimes we'll do 2, but I've cut back this year because I have other commitments. But we want to at least have 1 a month and to keep this going. So Brother Dimiter, please go ahead. Feel free to introduce as many or as few of your titles as you want. And you're going to be sharing. Let me go and give you screen sharing capability. Okay. Go ahead, Dimiter.
Okay, thank you, Brother Christopher. Good morning, good day, and good evening. I don't know where is currently on the globe, but at my side on the globe, it's 5 p.m. So 10 past 5. So it's wonderful to join you here today. Do you hear me well? First of all, you hear me quite well?
I hear you just fine.
Okay. Thank you for this opportunity, Brother Christopher, to present another topic that concerns Freemasonry in Bulgaria, and basically it's going to be called Freemasonry and its influence on Bulgarian history. To those of you who have seen the other presentation I've given in another web presentation, it's quite similar, but this topic is more into talking. I mean, whatever you don't see here in the presentation, it's deliberately not in the presentation. I'll be speaking on some topics during the presentation. So let me share the screen. Okay, now let's go to the slideshow. Okay. Now, I was part of the Grand Lodge of Ancient Faith and Accepted Masons in Bulgaria until like 1 month and a half ago. I've decided to take off my active membership in that Grand Lodge. What happened 3 days ago is another update we're going to publish online also and through my Facebook profile. My constituent lodge also voted that the whole lodge is going to separate itself from the Grand Lodge of the Ancient Free and Accepted Masons in Bulgaria for the reason that I'm not going to go now during this presentation into. However, I was 10 years, even more, the Grant International and PR Secretary. Basically, it's two offices that I had to work into of the Grand Lodge for Ancient Free and Accepted Masons in Bulgaria. Now, Freemasonry in Bulgaria is not new, but it's not old as it is in other jurisdictions. We don't have 200 years, we don't have 300 years. We merely approximately have 130 something years with big pause, with a big pause for almost 45 years. So during the presentation, first I'm going to present to you a bit of history of the Bulgarian states. Why do I say states? Because on 3 occasions we have 3 states at the current geographic territory where Bulgaria is currently residing. Then brief introduction into some of the esoteric philosophies that shaped part of the Bulgarian society in the Middle Ages and 100-200 years ago. Then we're going to move into the time frames of Freemasonic endeavors in Bulgaria, basically before the liberation of the current state of Bulgaria, after the liberation of the so-called Principality of Bulgaria, and then it moved into Kingdom of Bulgaria, and after the fall of communism, because during communism there was no Freemasonic activities. And then we're going to move into the problematic situations in the period 1992-2015. Then the activities in favor of the Brethren Bulgarian Social Society. Basically, when I say that the topic is Freemasonry and its influence on Bulgarian history, we're not going to go only in politics. We're going to go into most of the stuff that has shaped the current Bulgarian social society and the current Bulgarian state. Last but not least, the 4 Grand Lodges and the National United Grand Lodges Association. And this is a little mistake. It's 5 Grand Lodges currently. You'll see it later during the presentation. And you will have a Q&A session and reference gratitude and contacts of mine. So any questions before I proceed? Nope. Okay, you can interrupt me at any time, ask questions. We can have clarification on any topic in order not to leave it for later on. So this is a very brief history. It's basically an attempt to squeeze 1300 years of history in one PowerPoint slide. The current state where we reside first was mentioned in 681 after death in the part of what is now Bulgaria. In 864, the Orthodox Christianity was introduced, and later the Bulgarian alphabets, the Glagolitic and Cyrillic, together with the religion. Many state-funded missionaries started to spread these three important pillars of any statehood to the north and east of Bulgaria, of the current Bulgaria. In 1018 to 1185, the Byzantine Empire ruled over the Bulgarian Empire. In 1185, there was a liberation, then a new formation of a new Bulgarian state. We call it the Second Bulgarian State until the 1422, when the Ottoman Empire finally conquered all the remaining territories during its invasion in Europe, which, led almost to Vienna. In 1878, during one of the numerous Turkish, Russian, Ottoman wars, it became to be known to the Bulgarian society as the liberation of Bulgaria, the liberation war between the Russians and the Turks, because at that moment we gained our liberation, and together with the help of other nationalities and other army corps, units from other states, and we formed the Third Bulgarian State. 1885, until then, after the liberation, there were 2 jurisdictions. One was called the Principality of Bulgaria. The second was called the Eastern Rumelia, which was a vassal to the Ottoman Empire. In 1885, there was a unification between them both. The Turks weren't very happy with that. We assumed that back then they are going to invade us. That didn't happen. The Serbs started invading us because that was against their geostrategic policy and the geostrategic interest to have a bigger state than theirs next to them. In 1903, we had the independence, which is one of the most popular days we celebrate in terms of 3rd of March is the liberation, 22nd of September is the independence, and 6th of September is the unification. 1945, 1989, we had socialism, rise and fall, no active Freemasonry back then, nothing concerning Freemasonry except the, how should I say it? The state was going through all the archives that it could have got its hands on in order to understand who had what political and other economic and social relations prior to communism coming to Bulgaria. 1989, we had the Berlin Wall collapse. The next day, we had the regime change in Bulgaria. Basically, we started to move into a democratic society, into a capitalist economy. And in 2004, we gained accession to NATO. 2007, we became part of the European Union. So this is the brief history of our state without a lot of stuff that needs to be explained. Now, brief introduction into some of the philosophies, should I put it with this term, that shaped part of our belief system as a society, as Bulgarians, during the Christianity, because as you know, as I stated before, Christianity was adopted 864, 865, with the imposition of the Eastern Orthodox Christianity in Bulgaria. Now, to all my Christian brothers here, as you well know, 3 hours ago, the Holy Fire was lit in Jerusalem, so Christ has risen. May you and all your families have luck, health, and a good year. Now, concerning Christianity, it was imposed, as I stated, it was imposed by the ruling class. It was imposed by King Boris back then, in order to be in favorable position with the neighboring back then Byzantine Empire. We were thinking whether to have Orthodox Christianity, Catholic Christianity, or even Islam. In our historic books, in our history, it is written that there were many missionaries from these two big religious groups trying to get our state to become member of this or that religious group. We even wanted to continue with our pagan, should I say, pre-Christianic belief system. It was a mixture between the old Bulgarian gods and the Slavic god system. Because when the Bulgarian tribes came into the current Bulgarian territory, we invading it, we came to understand that the Romans and the Byzantines, the Greeks, couldn't deal with the Slavs in terms of they had a lot of wars, they had a lot of conflicts, because it was always the idea to impose on the Slavic tribes another belief system. What our ruling class then took as a decision was not to impose nothing, but to try to connect the two. Connect the Bulgarian pre-Christianic belief system together with the Slavic tribes and their own belief system in many gods. And it started to work. Basically, that's why we didn't have a lot of conflicts. We had negotiations, but we didn't have conflicts with the Slavics, with the Slav tribes. Later on, in the 10th century, as I have written it here, Bogomilism, it was called Bogomilism because it was a Christian pope, a Christian priest who, during the reign of our Tsar Peter, King Peter, Tsar Peter, the first in the 10th century, started this new Gnostic, or as we say, dualistic sect in the First Bulgarian Empire. The Bogomils called for the return to what they considered to be an early spiritual teaching, rejecting the ecclesiastical hierarchy. The movement spread quickly in the Balkans, gradually expanding throughout the Byzantine Empire, later reaching the Kievan Rus, Bosnia, Dalmatia, Serbia, Italy, France mainly the Qatar region, where the Qatars are known to have operated. The members of the Bogomil group were dualists or gnostics, in that they believed in a world within the body and a world outside of the body. You do understand that from an economic and political point of view, that was a very preposterous thing to spread. Our ruling class back then, trying for like 2-3 centuries now to move into a more favorable, united society, and to be able to work with our big neighbor, the Byzantine Empire. We were trying to not be so extremist, so not by the book, and so out of the idea of what is Christianity. However, this new sect in Christianity took off in Bulgaria due to its roots that were intertwined with a lot ancient teachings of other pre-Christian even, and not only pre-Christian, but other Christian sects. They intertwined together and they formed the Bogomilism, the teaching of Pope, it's not Pope, it's priest, Bogomil. So the were the gifted form and considered their body to be the temple. You know, if you lived back then, and you say, okay, I'm not going to go to this temple, I'm not going to give my belongings to favor that or this priesthood or whatever, that is preposterous because you need a well active, even economic system. Basically, they said God is all around and God is in with you. You don't need a church in order to go and pray somewhere. You have the church in you. This gave rise to many forms of practices to cleanse oneself through fasting, celebrating, and dancing, which, viewed from the point of view from the Eastern Orthodox Christianic rituals, is not something that you do quite often. Nowadays, in the modern economy of Bulgaria, we who are entrepreneurs and business owners, we say that if we have to go by the Christian Orthodox calendar of what needs to be done when you need to work and when you don't need to work, in a year of 365 days, we will be working not more than 50. The other 300, it's said, today you don't work, today you don't do this, today you don't do that, which from an economic point of view is not applicable for evolution or whatever. Now, that sect, though it was dismantled quite quickly from the ruling part of the Bulgarian society, it gained a lot of influence in the people that had been educated, that were thinking, that had the ability to go beyond what was taught in the, how should I put it back then, in the schools for the primary education. You know, the Bulgarians had one of the first schools. Later on during the presentation, I'm going to shed some light on that also. Now, another philosophy which gained not that much widespread as Bogomilism, but still it influenced a lot the Bulgarian society, was called Dinovism. You may search for it as the, or you have maybe come to notice it online or whatever, as the Universal White Brotherhood. It's a religious movement that was founded in Bulgaria in the early 20th century by he's not a priest, he was a professor in the States also, a teacher, Peter Dynov, and established in France in 1937 by Omram Mikhail Ivanhov. He was one of his followers. The group proposes a Christian esotericism characterized by a number of practices, including prayer, meditation, breathing exercises, yoga, of nutrition, and panevrytmy. Universal refers to the human's ability to understand the universal concepts about life. It speaks to the idea that people can expand their consciousness with these concepts that extend to a more just one person or a group. White is the highest spiritual symbol, which is the synthesis of all colors, being the manifestation of a soul's virtues. Why am I shedding light on these two teachings? In Bulgaria, Freemasonic activities on a wide scale always tend to talk about Bogomilism, Dinovism, whenever we want to go outside of the speakers that want to talk about economics, politics, or whatever. I mean, politics not in terms of politics. I mean, in terms of policies or polity. Now, as a society, we have formed our belief system through the religion that we have for like 400 years, 1200 years now. And through these main philosophies or teachings from different groups that initiated them, they are always interlinked with the Freemasonic activities that we do in some way. Now, you know, there are a lot of Freemasonic rituals. In Bulgaria, we still do not have a Bulgarian Freemasonic ritual, though a lot of the old teachings and a lot of the systems that we used to have prior to Christianity and even during Christianity refer to a hierarchical system of giving knowledge to an entered apprentice or a person who seeks light. That's why I'm shedding light on these two teachings or philosophies. Now we move on to the next slide. The three significant time frames of Freemasonic endeavors in Bulgaria, as I stated, the first one is before the liberation of Bulgaria. Now, Freemasonry, for a long period of time, to us Bulgarians, was a way for progress, personal, social, national, universal. We viewed always the Freemasonic idea as an instrument towards the liberation of Bulgaria prior to the liberation of our third state. I have stated here that Freemasonry was mostly a game for non-Bulgarians, but slowly many Bulgarians found the way to the temple, and the craft was used as a means for supporting the national liberation movement and later for the formation of the third Bulgarian state. And now a little bit of examples. In 1805, 1807, a document from the head of the French consulate, Colonel Mandradjiev, mentions a lodge in the city of Vidin. Vidin is in the most northwestern part of Bulgaria on the Danube River. Now, the Danube River was a infrastructure way to have transportation, basically a lot quicker to have interconnections and connections and communication with other states that are on the Danube River. That's why a lot of the new stuff in Bulgaria primarily came through the Danube River. It didn't matter whether that's Freemasonry, it didn't matter whether that's some kind of new economic business or economic endeavor or adventure of any social wise or whatever. Catholicism also came through the Danube River. That's why we have a lot of Catholics on the Danube River. Not only, but a lot of them there. Jewish temples, we have a lot in the cities that are on the Danube River because the Jews were connected to the Danube River. Not only there, but mainly there. Later in 1830, again in a Danube River city, the city of Russe, we call it the Little Vienna, a very beautiful city. If you come to Bulgaria, you can visit that city, was an attempt to consecrate a Bulgarian members-only lodge by Archbishop Bara Ephraim. He was initiated in 1820 in the French Ovid Lodge in Chisinau, nowadays Moldova. In 1869, Young Bulgaria, the so-called movement, and the Bulgarian Literary Society, nowadays it's called the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences, were formed in Brăila. Now, the Bulgarian Literary Society, why am I stating this non-governmental organization? In 1869, there was still no Bulgarian state. That were Bulgarians that were living in Romania. Brăila is north of the Danube River. It's in the Romanian state. A lot of Bulgarians were living in Romania, actively working for the liberation and the formation of a third Bulgarian state. A lot of them were also trying in different ways to promote the idea for liberation of Bulgaria. One of the lodges that was consecrated was called officially in its charter was called Bulgarian Literary Society. As it was in other states around the world, this lodge later became the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences. But first it was a Freemasonic lodge with a non-governmental charter called Bulgarian Literary Society. Then it moved into the newly liberated Bulgaria, and that's why it's, as an anecdote, we say that the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences is older than the Bulgarian third state because it was founded in another state when there was no Bulgarian state still. Up to 1879, many prominent ethnic Bulgarians were initiated in the lodges in Istanbul, Bucharest, Leipzig, Paris, Odessa, and other cities in Europe, and not only. During the 1877-1878 Russian-Turkish Liberation War, many fields and wartime lodges were consecrated mainly by Romanians, and thus many Bulgarians were initiated in them. So this is the first officially, with documents, attempt to use Freemasonry as a way, as an instrument to gain liberation of our state. However, what I have not put inside this presentation is the organization of our liberation movement. Now, we have 2-3 very prominent figures among the other 50, 60, which we have officially gained as national days for them, festivities around the state. The first one is called George Rakowski, Georgi Stoikov Rakowski. You may find him also as Georgi Sava Rakowski, but the real name is Georgi Stoikov Rakowski, George Rakowski. The military academy, the National Military Academy, is named after him. George Rakowski was the person who was the founder of the first Bulgarian organization. I mean Bulgarian in terms of Bulgarians who were inside that organization, because there was no Bulgarian state prior to the liberation. That was in a structure, in a hierarchical way, structured as a Grand Lodge. It had responsible person in every little group that was part of this big organization, at every little orient or little sub-jurisdiction, that was in charge of gathering the people that were part of this or that organization, working with them, spreading the idea for liberation, spreading the idea of what was Bulgaria used to be 500 years ago, what it can be, working with a lot of, and that's official, working with a lot of Freemasons around the world, mainly in Italy. That's why when I mentioned Young Bulgaria, it started as after we had the Young Turks and the Young Italia movement being founded. Then we started our Young Bulgaria movement. And Rakowski worked with Mazzini in Italy, and there's a lot of correspondence that we still unearth, we still find from time to time in many different libraries or even private homes or even under buildings, hidden, that show that there was a lot of communication, active communication, in terms of how the Italian Brotherhood can help facilitate and promote the idea of the liberation of the Bulgarian state. Not only that, as you see, the Romanians were quite eager also to work in favor of the liberation of the Bulgarian state. A lot of lodges were consecrated during the wartime, during the war. In terms of another person, another prominent figure in Bulgarian history, that's Vasil Levski. Now, Rakowski and Levski, when we speak about them in the Bulgarian history, Vasil Levski is like the biggest one. He's like the active doer. And Rakowski is like the thinker, the person who invented everything, how to be structured, where to have the committees, because we say they were committees, not lodges, but committees. A committee in this region, a committee in that region. Vasil Levski was the main figure who was traveling between the committees, working with them, initiating people into the liberation movement. There were rituals also. We officially don't know what these rituals were. And they worked together most of the time. And of course, another 50, 60 permanent figures that we have, most of the states, most of the avenue squares, whatever, called after them nowadays in nowadays Bulgaria. So this was before the liberation of Bulgaria. There was a lot of Freemasonic communication. There was a lot of work done for the organization of the liberation movement, because you see, the Turkish-Russian or Russian-Turkish war started after a national uprising in a lot of the nowadays Bulgarian territories that were back then in the empire of the Turks, of the Ottoman Empire. And due to the uprising, we're not speaking about protests, we're speaking about real uprising. The Turkish army was led into preposterous massacres in a lot of the territories where there was uprising. That information by the journalists that were in Bulgaria back then, from Britain, from the US, and from other European medias, was spread out of Bulgaria, was spread to the world. What happened was that through the Freemasonic channels, that information went into almost every place around the globe almost instantly. And then the Russians were like, okay, we have brothers from the Christian faith. We have worked with them a lot, and we speak their language. We have their alphabet. In the year 1000 or something, we had a lot of cultural influence by them. Let's help them out and let's start another war with the Turks. Maybe we can free them. Maybe they can be a principality of ours, as later we became a principality for a little time prior to the unification. And that was how the Freemasonic activities led to the war. During the war, at different moments of the war, when it was obvious that the Turks are losing this city, that village, whatever, the official policy of the Turks was, if you see that you're losing the city, you have to burn it down and kill everybody that is inside that city. Men, women, children, infants, whatever. It wasn't something that happened only in one city. We have 4 or 5 big cities, and for the villages much more, where the Freemasonic brotherhoods, both from one side and the other side, negotiated, contrary to the sultans of Turkey, to the sultans demanding, and quite frankly, it was an order to burn down the city. The Freemasonic brothers from both sides gathered prior to knowing that this village is or that city is no longer going to be a Turkish vilayet or Turkish or under the Turks' auspices. And they negotiated a peaceful, should I put it, exchange of power. That's why we don't have almost no big city or small village that was burned down to the ground and everybody killed. We do have some. Stara Zagora, 45,000 people were killed, innocent people, because the Turks were losing the city. And they said, okay, we're going to kill everybody and put fire. And that city, by the way, that's why it's almost brand new, because it was rebuilt after the end of the war. So that was the influence of Freemasonry on Bulgarian history in the terms of prior to the liberation. We move on to the next slide. After the liberation of the Principality of Bulgaria, known later as the Kingdom of Bulgaria, after the unification with the Eastern Rumelia, vassal territory, it was vassal to the Ottoman Empire. 1979, it was an important year, because on the February 21st, as we state, the brother Ivan Vedar, led and guaranteed for 3 Bulgarians from Russia in the Heliopolis Lodge in Bucharest. Later, he initiated 3 more in the same lodge. Now we had officially 7 Bulgarian Master Masons. We had them available. In March the same year, March 20th, the Grand Orient of Lusitania confirmed the documents for a regular lodge in Bulgaria. And on the next year, 1880, on February 18th, with a delegation from Romania, the Balkan Star Lodge was consecrated. I think it was in the city of Ruse back then. It was with the register patent number 134, patent 1831, registration number 134, on the day of the 31st of March, 1880. Here, this is a mistake. It's not 1817, but anyways, with worshipful master, Brother Ivan Veda. Now, this is the first ever official Bulgarian lodge with Bulgarian members in the Bulgarian third state. This is the cornerstone for Freemasonry in Bulgaria. In 1884, lodges from Ruse switched off in Bucharest, Ruse, Bulgarian city, switched off next to Ruse, 50-60 kilometers, Bulgarian city, Bucharest, north of the Danube River, capital of Romania. We consecrated in Varna, and the Grand Lodge of Bulgaria was recognized by the Grand Symbolic Lodge of France. The Grand Lodge of Bulgaria had a short period of active life as a Portuguese lodge, as the Portuguese lodges started to have different, let me just check because someone is writing to me something. Anyways, started to have some inner disputes, and then we started moving without the Portuguese influence. In 1885, now you see it's like 5 years in a row. 5 years, no influence whatsoever from outside of Bulgaria, no influence from any Grand Lodge. The Lodge Brotherhood initiated and established the Bulgarian Red Cross. Now, I'm opening a bit now the door towards what the lodges made for the social society, because a lot of the still intact and still actively working pillars of the social society in Bulgaria were firstly negotiated, discussed, and agreed upon in lodges, in Freemasonic lodges. It was not an act of the government. It was not a negotiation from the parliament. It was not a negotiation from a non-formal group that wishes to have power or influence in the state. It was the Freemasonic lodges. The Bulgarian Red Cross was established, and that we have inside the that we learned from the protocols from the meeting of Lodge Brotherhood in 1885. Until 1913, there was no active lodge. And that's because there were a lot of problems in the society due to the wars, due to everything that happened in that time period in Bulgaria. In 1913, 1916, another lodge was formed. It's called Zarya, with number 463. That was part of the Grand Lodge of France. And in 1917, the Grand Symbolic Lodge of Bulgaria was consecrated and formed and gained worldwide recognition instantly. As you see, Freemasonry in Bulgaria is like an organism. You start with one cell, it duplicates, it starts geometric progression. We start Grand Lodge after Grand Lodge after Grand Lodge. And there were other Grand Lodges also. Apart from lodges itself, apart from the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences, apart from the Bulgarian Red Cross, in the years 1933, in the mid-20s, mid-30s, a lot of structures, a lot of non-government organizations were formed. 1933, the Rotary Club movement gained the ability to access Bulgaria, and the first Rotarians, all of them were Freemasons. Basically, they decided, okay, let's do something that's not that secret, not that Freemasonic. Let's do something which is a bit business, a bit more humanitarian in terms of what it has to do for the society, and so on and so on. In 1940, 1944, on two occasions, basically, the state, the parliament, adopts decisions to ban Freemasonry. Now, the first time it was, because of the war, because of Nazism, and so on and so on. However, this ban, the first time, was not as, it wasn't that much like a ban. It was, okay, guys, we are on the pact with Germans and with the Japs. We need to ban Freemasonry. And the lodges themselves said, okay, we're going to do it, don't worry. The second time, however, after the end of the Second World War, the banning of the Freemasonic movement was quite in a radical way carried out. A lot of Freemasons were killed without a court decision, or there was a court decision, but yeah, you do understand what I mean. A lot of the belongings, personal, business, whatever, was confiscated for the state. Some of them nowadays, we can find them around the globe in personal collections. Or nowadays, we can find some of the stuff in terms of land, buildings, privately owned by people that came into power after the Second World War in Bulgaria, or their descendants currently. So Freemasonry got into a very, very dark period in Bulgaria. Most of the Freemasonic activities were outside of Bulgaria. But due to the interconnection between the Communist Party and as the Communist Party stated, until 1989, the second biggest party, which was the Conservative Party, which was much older. The Conservative Party in Bulgaria was, and still, I don't want to say still, but because they have like 10 different conservative parties, the Conservative Party was the owners of land, of production facilities for food, of production facilities for other types of goods, whatever. It had 1.1 million actively paying members, actively paying membership fee members, back in 1945. The Communist Party was 30, 40, 50,000 people. After the end of the Second World War, I mean, not before. The Communist Party came into existence in the beginning of the 1900s. The Conservative Party, it's called Bulgarian People's Union of Agricultural Landowners, whatever. Agriculturalists, should I put it this way. They were, after the liberation of Bulgaria, they started being active. That was the biggest party. 1.1 million from a society of 4 million in the year 1945. 1/4, 25% of the society, and when I say this, I mean men, not women, were part of that party. So most of the members of the biggest party were members also of the Freemasonic lodges, because they can afford to be members of Freemasonic lodges, because they were entrepreneurs, they were owners, and they had the ability to influence the social society from the vocation they come into gather as members of this or that lodge. What happened later is that communism came into self-demolishing situation. November 9th, 1989, the next day was November 10th, 1989, we started our regime change. And since that moment, a lot of Bulgarians that were initiated into lodges outside of Bulgaria, and they were living outside of Bulgaria, 4 40 years or 45 years, or even 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, 80 years, 90 years, 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, 400 years, 500 years, 600 years, 700 years, 800 years, 900 years, 1000 years, 2000 years, 3000 years, 4000 years, 5000 years, 6000 years, 7000 years, 8000 years, 9000 years, 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, 400 years, 500 years, 600 years, 700 years, 800 years, 900 years, 1000 years, 2000 years, 3000 years, 4000 years, 5000 years, 6000 years, 7000 years, 8000 years, 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, 400 years, 500 years, 600 years, 700 years, 800 years, 900 years, 1000 years, 2000 years, 3000 years, 4000 since their birth, started thinking of coming back to Bulgaria. Of course, that was viewed as people that were not okay with the communist regime to come back to Bulgaria to start the new democratic society, capitalistic economy, trade, free trade, whatever. So in 1992, 2 years almost, 2.5, after the fall of the Berlin Wall and the beginning of the changes in Bulgaria, we wake up one day and we realize that we have two lines of Freemasonic activities in Bulgaria. One was by the Germans, one was by the Yugoslavs back then. I'm not going to go into details because this is much more into history of Freemasonry and not speaking about Freemasonry and its influence into Bulgarian history. I'm just showing this slide to you guys. So what happened was that, long story short, we united in 1996 the two lines. In 1997, we had the first regular Grand Lodge installed by two Grand Lodges from the United Grand Lodges of Germany. That was the Grand Lodge of Ancient Faith and Accept Masons in Germany and the American Canadian Grand Lodge of Germany, together with the Grand Master of United Grand Lodges of Germany. They came, they came into Bulgaria, and they had the consecration ceremony 21st or 22nd of September 1997. So we have now officially in a regular way, from a recognized, not only one, but two recognized Grand Lodges, formed officially one new Grand Lodge in Bulgaria. And that was the Grand Lodge of Ancient Faith and Accept Masons in Bulgaria. So the story begins. Again, this I'm not going to go into this site. It's I've put it in because you see these problems that started in the Grand Lodge. It wasn't the other way around. It wasn't that in the Grand Lodge we have problems, and those problems were spread into the social society. No, it was the other way around. The problems in the social society of Bulgaria influenced the problems in the Grand Lodge. Now, this is what I will speak more about. The activities in favor of the Bulgarian social society. As I mentioned, independence. The independence in 1903 was, 1908, sorry, was carried out by the cabinet of Prime Minister Karavelov. That cabinet consisted officially, only one member was not a Freemason. That's the official version that we stick to. Unofficially, even that one member was also a Freemason. It wasn't appropriate to say, and still is, that he was a Freemason because of the ministry he was a minister of back then. So the independence itself was negotiated between members of different lodges that were members of the cabinet of the prime minister. And it wasn't supposed to be on the 22nd of September. The official document states that it was after the between the 20th and 25th of October was the idea to have the proclamation of the independence of the Bulgarian state. However, the intelligence agencies and those of other states gave us the information that our plan to have the proclamation of the independence of a sovereign state in terms of the Kingdom of Bulgaria was now being an information spread to most other intelligence agencies because we couldn't keep it under the lid. So it was like 24 hours later before realizing that the information, the genie is out. They took the decision quickly in a hurry, hurdling all the members of the parliament and everybody who was in power back then, to go to Veliko Turnovo. That was a capital of Bulgaria, or the second Bulgarian state, to go to Veliko Turnovo and to read out the proclamation of independence of the Bulgarian state. A purely Freemasonic endeavor, a purely Freemasonic action. Only Freemasons from different lodges, part of the cabinet of the Prime Minister Karavelov. Another statesmanship, another state act which the Bulgarian Freemasonry community carried out. During the Second World War, there was this influence, should I put it, to be politically correct. Demand is much better. Demand from the Germans to have all of the Jews, didn't matter, Bulgarian Jews, whatever, to ship them out. To ship them out of Bulgaria, you know where. The Bulgarian Freemasonic community, not only 1, 2, 3 members, we have the documents. It wasn't only Dimiter Mandradjiev and another 2 members of the Freemasonic community. They stood up against this idea. They did everything in their power, and this demand was not met in a favorable way. We didn't give even 1 Jew to the Germans. We didn't kill even 1 Jew. We saved our brothers and sisters. Because Bulgaria, as a former empire, is consisting until today of a lot of different ethnicities and religious groups. So that's another action, another act carried out by the Bulgarian Freemasons. It was a negotiation, not a negotiation, it was a discussion how to be carried out in one of the Bulgarian lodges. Quite frankly, I cannot remember currently which lodge was that. But in terms of what happened in the parliament, most of the members of parliament were Freemasons also. They voted against this idea after a speech of one of the prominent figures in Bulgarian society, Dimiter Mandradjiev. Education initiatives. The first ever university. Now, this is a very interesting story. We're not putting some stuff online because we need to keep some stuff to be talked about. The first Bulgarian university is called the Sofia University. It is really the first Bulgarian university. It was consecrated with the official act of the government, whatever. But prior to the official act of the government, Brotherhood, I think was Govor. The Lodge Govor, in the English language, Govor should be something like chain between brothers. Yeah. If I have to translate it, it's Govor, the Lodge Govor. Sorry, it's not Lodge, it's Acacia Lodge. Govor is another thing. Acacia Lodge. Acacia Lodge had a lodge meeting. It's in their protocol, in the tablet. They had a protocol. They had a meeting after the Principality of Bulgaria was formed, and it came down to who is going to buy all the grain and wheat and flour that the Bulgarian Principality, the Bulgarian society produces. Because the most rich territory in the Ottoman Empire was the Bulgarian territory currently, in terms of production of food, cattle, and other goods. Basically, we were like the little China of the Ottoman Empire. We produced all the food for the empire almost, and a lot of other stuff. So the Principality of Bulgaria had to negotiate an agreement with some entity which would buy out all the production we have for the production of bread, basically. Until that moment, prior to the liberation period, there were two Bulgarian brothers who were the biggest buyers in the whole of the Ottoman Empire of all the production of almost all the production of flour, grains, whatever, and they were selling it to other states. When it came down to whether or not to give it to them, this contract, the Acacia Lodge gathered with them and they made a proposal. Since we have a newly forming state, we need one of the most important pillars of a state, which is education, higher education. We need a university. A university comes not only with teachers, but also with a building, also with other different attributes which one university needs, with money. Apart from that proposal for the university, during that meeting, they also asked from them, in order to receive the contract for a couple of years in a row, to be able to buy the production of grain, flour, everything that you need to make bread, yeast. They were asked also to give money, not only for the first university, to sponsor and to build that university with their money, but also to form the first national military academy, and also to form the compound for the barracks, the compound for the housing of the military personnel, compound for the where students live during the university activities, anyways. And they said, okay, we agree. That's why when you come to Bulgaria, you go into Sofia city and you visit the Sofia University, you see at the front main entrance of the Sofia University, it's called Sofia University after the name of Saint Clement of Ohrid. Ohrid, another city, and currently in, it's called Northern Macedonia, a couple of years now, in Macedonia. It used to be a old Bulgarian capital. So in front of that building, next to the main entrance, the two brothers are sitting on their thrones because they were the ones giving the money for the university and for a lot of other buildings that were made, which gave into the existence of one of the pillars, the education, the higher education, and the other one, the National Military Academy, which is still, it is the biggest and still one of the most prominent ones on the Balkans. Now, we continue with education initiatives. Читалища. What does читалище mean? If I have to translate it quite directly, it's a place where you read, a reading place, reading hall, reading, reading whatever. If you look at all the читалища buildings that were constructed prior to the liberation, after the liberation, even partially during communist times, you will see 3, 5, or 7 in the at the entrance steps. You will see the two pillars, left and right. You know what I mean. And inside, there's a hall for meetings. There's a library. There's a chancery. There's a hall for education purposes. There's a hall for festivities. A Freemasonic temple, in other terms. Now, the читалища idea came into existence in the mid 1700s. In the mid 1700s, there no Bulgaria still. No Bulgaria. However, in the territory of nowadays Bulgaria, the Bulgarian society that was part of the Turkish society, Turkish Empire, started to work upon widespread education initiative for the children, for the little children, to start to be able to write, read, understand, whatever. You say, we say tabula rasa in Latin language. Tabula rasa, you take a little sand box, you write something, and then you stack it out, and then you start writing again. We used to do that in the proto version of the Читалище, and that was in the monasteries and the churches. Every Sunday or every Saturday, even not only on these days, but mainly on these days, because the other days the children needed to go to work on the field. You need to produce agricultural products. You're one of 15 children. You're born not because your mother and father love to have 15 children and trying to meet ends, but you need to work to have the family to exist. So they used to go on Saturday and Sunday to study the alphabet, to study the Bulgarian alphabet, the Cyrillic, as we say it Cyrillic, but it's Bulgarian alphabet. Sometimes to study the Greek alphabet, because in the 1700s we still had the non-autonomous church. We were with the Greeks, and then there were a lot of other stuff. We're not going into that stuff currently on this presentation. There was a lot of...
Brother
Yes.
Dimiter? Yes. Yeah, we're just coming up on an hour. I just don't want to delve deep into every single point you want to cover, if you understand.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, quite quickly then. So, the Читалища, something like libraries, but not only a library, a place for cultural activities. A lot of the Читалища during the prior to communist times were also Freemasonic temples. Bulgarian Engineering Society, Sofia, Plovdiv, two main cities, Varna, Burgas, two main cities at the Black Sea, and other cities. Most of the biggest, important, influential, and administrative buildings and cultural ones and education facilities were built by Freemasons that were part of the Bulgarian Engineering Society and by different groups of the Freemasonic lodges. Charity activities. I mentioned already Bulgarian Red Cross, Bulgarian Students' Home. It was built in the beginning of the 1900s. It was a very influential part of the Bulgarian university students' movements during the prior to the Second World War. It was a place where you can go and sleep if you're a student, eat if you're a student without paying anything. It was all sponsored by Freemasonic lodges and also by the by the Tsar himself. Humanitarian programs, Rotary, Lions clubs, pen clubs, all these activities were also during the mid-30s came into existence. Anti-discrimination on a national and EU scale. 10 years ago, we faced a problem in Bulgaria. We faced a very difficult situation in terms of legislation that was adopted even by from 240 members of parliament. 80 were Bulgarian Freemasons. 80 of them were Freemasons in Bulgarian lodges. However, they did agree on this legislation. They started, the legislation basically said you cannot be a Freemason and be in charge and be in senior level in the Bulgarian administration, Bulgarian politics. You do understand. So back then, the Grand Master of our Grand Lodge, Pan Matev, as we say in Bulgarian language, he took on the decision, let's start working to change this. Together with two other Grand Lodges, the Grand Lodge of Bulgaria and the Grand Lodge of Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite, we moved an appeal to the Commission for Anti-Discriminatory Measures, which is a European organ also. Basically, what they decide in Bulgaria has to be imposed in Bulgaria. So we contacted that commission in Bulgaria. They said, okay, we're going to go into this. And they came out with a decision. The Bulgarian parliament should take out this discriminative text and not apply it. Unfortunately, the parliament did make another reform in that legislation, but for like 6-7 months now, there's a lot of influence in different high-level administrations, both governmental, central institutions, and both local institutions, meaning city councils, municipalities, whatever, to not have Freemasons. Nevertheless, we have, for a 6 million population, we have 12,000 members only in the male Freemasonic Grand Lodges, which is a big number for us. Sports activities. In the beginning of the 1900s, the first ever organized sports activities were carried out by were facilitated to be organized and carried out for the first times by Bulgarian Freemasonic lodges, together with Swiss Freemasons that came from the Swiss Gymnasts Associations to start our professional sports, athletics, volleyball, basketball, whatever was back then part of the gymnast activities. Academic activities. A lot of libraries in the newly popping up universities were formed, sponsored by different Freemasons and Freemasonic lodges. So this is the next slide. It's not the 4, it's the 5 Grand Lodges that are currently in existence. 3 of them are in the National United Grand Lodges of Bulgaria. That is the Ancient Free and Accepted Masons of Bulgaria, the Grand Lodge of Bulgaria, and the Grand Lodge of Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite. These 3 form the National United Grand Lodges of Bulgaria. The United Grand Lodge of Bulgaria in 2004 is not part of this. The newly formed in 2019 original GLAFAM is still not part. I have to switch it on the grayscale, on the gray part anyways. So this is currently the situation in Bulgaria. We have 5 Grand Lodges. Our Grand Lodge, for example, our lodge, my lodge, Akhenaton Lodge, in which I'm a member, as I stated, last week we had a meeting, and after 3 or 4 months of discussion, we took on the decision to take the responsible action not to be part of the Grand Lodge for unstated time. So after 6 months, officially we will be, because that's the procedure, after 6 months officially, maybe we will be confirming this decision that we made, and we will be exiting the Grand Lodge for Ancient Free and Accepted Masons in Bulgaria. So if you have any questions, I'll be more than eager to answer. And these are my contacts. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for your attention. And cheers.
Let me come off of mute. Yeah, brother, here, let me go ahead and close that. 1 second, let me put everybody back here. There we go. Thank you, brother Dimiter. That was okay. I hated to put a little brush there, but it seemed like you're going down a rabbit hole. I wanted to ask about. I appreciate the talk. It was very in depth. I feel like I have a better understanding of Bulgarian history now, and it's really something I don't know a lot about. Among the 5 Grand Lodges, then, do you all recognize each other? And can you visit any lodge in any of those 5 Grand Lodges? Or is that an involved
Now,
question?
give me please the ability to switch on the presentation again.
Go ahead, sorry. Yep.
Yeah, okay. Do you see the pointer? My
Yes.
mouse? Do you see the mouse? Okay.
Yes.
1997, Grand Lodge, French Freemasonry except Mason, Bulgaria. Due to the fact that in the year 2000, 2001, we formed by the South jurisdiction the the Supreme Council of the Ancient Except Scottish Rite, a group of brothers switched out of the Ancient Free and Accepted Masons Grand Lodge, and later they formed the United Grand Lodge of Bulgaria. Then in 2010, by the book, now here 2010 is by the book, obeying every part of the legislation of the Grand Lodge. We had the Grand Lodge of Bulgaria going out 4 lodges. They went out of the Grand Lodge of Ancient Free and Accepted Masons Bulgaria, and from the Grand Lodge of France, they restarted the 1917 the Grand Lodge of Bulgaria. 2013, again by the book, with present also during the consecration of GLB. Again, we had present some officers from our Grand Lodge. 2013, we had the consecration or the restart of the 1917 Grand Lodge of AASR of Bulgaria, Ancient Scottish Rite. 2019, due to internal conflicts, 6 lodges split from the Grand Lodge, Mother Grand Lodge, as we say, from us, and they formed the original, as they say, Grand Lodge French Ancient Free and Accepted Masons in Bulgaria. This lodge, the Mother Grand Lodge, Ancient Free and Accepted Masons in Bulgaria, together with the Grand Lodge of Bulgaria, together with the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite in Bulgaria, in the year 2016, formed the National United Grand Lodge of Bulgaria. We work together. We visit together lodges. The UGLB has a strict policy not to have members of any other Grand Lodge in the territory of Bulgaria because they say that it's only them and everybody else is irregular.
Right.
Yes, they have the strict position, no member of any other Grand Lodge to be able to visit in the territory of Bulgaria, to be able to visit their lodges. They don't recognize any other body, which is, for example, the Supreme Council that we have. They don't recognize that thing officially, but we have like 200 members from them in the Supreme Council. However, apart from the lodge stuff, apart from the ritual stuff, we do work together. We do work together in business. We do work together in non-Masonic endeavors. We do have our differences. We promote the idea to work together. However, for some reason, still, they don't want to work in a Masonic way together. The current Grand Master of the United Grand Lodge of Bulgaria, together, me and him, we formed the Rotary Club of Sofia Capital back in 2015. I mean, I'm part of another Grand Lodge. He's now the Grand Master of UGLB. We do work together. But in terms of Freemasonic brothers to enter Freemasonic Lodge from UGLB to come to us, we are okay with that. The GLAFAM is okay with UGLB members to come. UGLB lodges are not okay, any other Grand Lodge members to come to their meetings.
So do you know, like, say for like the United Grand Lodge of England, do you know which of these bodies it recognizes?
I know very well, and I'll explain the situation. Back in the year 2000, 2001, and now I'm going to switch into something else because I needed to show this also as part of the presentation.
Certainly.
Just a second, because it concerns the answer I have to give. Just a second. Yep. And here it is. And now I'm going to switch this into English language because we have an English language also. And now I'm going to put this on here. Now, in the year 2000, 2001, as I stated, because in the year 2000, on January 6th, we took the decision as a Grand Lodge to start the formation of the Supreme Council, 33rd and last degree of the ancient accepted Scottish Rite in Bulgaria, which is viewed upon by some members of the craft of the Grand Lodge as something which is not good to be done in terms of the social society of Bulgaria, in terms of politics, economics, and whatsoever. We took that decision in the year 2000, and it was January 11th. In November, we had the same year, 2000, we had the elections for the new Grand Council of our, still at that time, only one Grand Lodge. There were deliberations, there was problems, whatever. One group split from our Grand Lodge, and later in 2004 formed the United Grand Lodge of Bulgaria. However, prior to the formation of the United Grand Lodge of Bulgaria, in the year 2001, 14th of March, this is the application for recognition that even it has a date and a printed time, 1434. That's the file. I have the original file on the diskette and on the disk, floppy disk. We had that application for recognition sent to the United Grand Lodge of England. What happened back then was that, and by the way, I'll share this link in the chat. What happened back then was that the United Grand Lodge of England sent out an official recognition letter stating the Grand Lodge of Ancient Free and Accepted Masons in Bulgaria with a Grand Master. Now here's the tricky part. A guy who split from our Grand Lodge.
Yep.
And send it to our former address. Because after the November 2000 elections, now this is pure history, guys, no politics here. After the 2000 November elections, we decided not to keep the same office, but to we took on the decision to have a new office in another place. Our office, the next day we left that office, was rented by the guys who left our lodge. So they received the document with stating GOA FAM in Bulgaria with Grandmaster, this guy. And the story continues, as you know. So for now, that is the situation. We have tried numerous times to speak with different Grand Lodges around the world that we do need to have the idea for consensus, as this happened in Italy in November, as you well know. The Grand Orient of Italy, together with the regular Grand Lodge of Italy, which I think came into existence 15 or 20 years ago when it split from the Grand Orient, they signed a treaty in November last year, and this treaty was sent to the United Grand Lodge of England, and the United Grand Lodge of England respected it and said, okay, guys, since you're sharing the jurisdiction, we now recognize two grand entities, two grand Freemasonic entities, the Grand Orient of Italy and the regular Grand Lodge of Italy, and we now work with you both in the same jurisdiction. This also is information which you can find on the website of the Commission on Information for Recognition as part of the conference in the States of the Grand Masters of Masons of North America, in which the topic for Italy was again deliberated on, and the same information was put into existence for all the member states of the North American conference. So we, as you see, try to work in a way in which is non-radical, and we want to work together. By the way, our lodge, constituent lodge, Akhenaton in English, viewing all the ancient landmarks, we do believe that after stepping out of the Grand Lodge of Ancient Free and Accepted Masons in Bulgaria, we'll be able to work with every other Grand Lodge in Bulgaria. No matter if that Grand Lodge is an official treaty of recognition with the other Grand Lodge or another Grand Lodge, because we as a Freemasonic Lodge are not a Grand Lodge.
Interesting. Just for reference to Virginia, and this is based on the most recent information I have. The diagram you showed with the Grand Lodge at the top in that diagram is the one that we recognize here in Virginia, and the Supreme Council of the Southern Jurisdiction of the United States recognizes your Supreme Council as well, which is, and it's kind of interesting because for a lot of Masons who don't quite, they only know their Scottish Rite in their country. In America and in a few other places, the Scottish Rite is an appendant body. You must join a Blue Lodge in order to join. Let me go bring us all back, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
If Scottish Rite is an independent body in Virginia and every American state, with one or two exceptions. So if you want to be a Scottish Rite Mason, you have to join a Blue Lodge and go through the first 3 degrees, and then you petition the Scottish Rite. In many other countries, the Scottish Rite is a separate rite. You get entered apprentice on through 18th or 30th. I don't know how far Brian's you were 18th, I think, and eventually you may get to the 32nd. Whereas in America, you get all 30, you get all 29 in a weekend sometimes. But the point is, in some countries, in many countries, the Scottish Rite is a standalone rite, just like the York Rite or the Swedish Rite or the couple dozen other rites that exist. It's hard for Americans to relate to that because we think of the Royal Arch and the Scottish Rite and all these other appendant bodies as just appendant bodies. So, point being, our Supreme Council can recognize a Supreme Council of Scottish Rite somewhere in the world, apart and separate from whether the Grand Lodges within that council decide to recognize the Grand Lodge. So just interesting how that all kind of flows together, and there's no one nice, neat answer for regularity and recognition. It just
Yes,
sort of like
you
it depends.
you are quite on the spot, quite right. That is the situation between our two Grand Lodges, between the Virginia Lodge and the AFAM. And concerning the Supreme Council, yes, we work in the way you work. The order itself has a treaty with our Grand Lodge since the year 2000. It was consecrated in the year 2001 on January 6th. And since then, you need to be a Master Mason in a Blue Lodge AFAM, or nowadays the other lodges, in order to be able to join the 4th degree and onwards to proceed.
So it's an appendant body.
It's an appendant body.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Yes. There are lodges in Bulgaria. Those are the Masonic lodges, most of them, that are consecrated by a Supreme Council order. Basically, Supreme Council makes its own Grand Lodge.
Right.
Yeah. We are not that case.
I want to make sure I open this up. If anybody else has a question, whatever, I don't want to monopolize your time there. Anybody have a question or a comment on the presentation?
I see Brother Mike from Bulgaria is here also. Peter is here also. Nice to meet you guys. See you again.
Hi, everyone. From South African living in Bulgaria now. Hi, Peter.
Good to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Dimiter, were you here in 2023?
No, 2023, no. I was in 2015, 16, 17, 19, 17, 18, 19, 20. 2023, no. No.
Okay. What, 2023?
No.
We had a cornerstone laying ceremony down at the George Washington Memorial, National Memorial down in Alexandria, and I met, I think it was the Grand Secretary, and I thought it was you, but apparently it was not.
That should have been Karafiziev. He is the Grand Secretary for the last 12 years now of our Grand Lodge.
Right, I think, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
However, the George Masonic Memorial, I'm a sponsor almost every year. I donate funds for the memorial. And my constituent lodge does that also. And the Grand Lodge also. The Grand Lodge has something like 30 or even more commemorative trees with the pillars. Also, we have benches, I think. It's on the website. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, yeah. Benches.
Mm.
Wow. You guys do great. Thank you.
Yeah. Not on the
Yeah,
benches, but also,
I'm a member
yeah.
down there too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I receive all those updates from time to time also by email and hard copy. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Anyone else have a question or a comment?
Yeah. Hey,
Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah. Hey, couple things. First of all, Dimiter, want to express our sincere gratitude for you taking the time to explain that uh, somewhat confusing history, but a lot was given in a very short amount of time. But thank you. Try to keep up with the general side. Two questions. In your discussion to the 1800s, there was a lot of mention about the liberation of Bulgaria. And pardon my lack of knowledge of the Bulgarian history, but liberation from who or what organization?
The liberation was from the Turkish Empire, or as it was called, Ottoman Empire, because in the year 1422, the last Bulgarian stronghold was demolished. Officially, the year is 1396. However, it was 1422, which is the quite precise year in which the last Bulgarian remaining stronghold, territory, which was still Bulgaria, was ruled over, demolished, whatever. Because you see, when the Turks came to the Balkans is, we as Balkan people, Yugoslavia, Romania, Greece, Turkey, whatever, we are combinative people. We do a lot of combinations from time to time. We trade a lot. It's a trading route. It's in our genes to trade a lot. Some of our territories, without any fights, by only negotiations, went into the Ottoman Empire. Others, however, stated, no, we're not going to be part of the Ottoman Empire because we want to have a sovereign state, and big wars came into existence. I mean, yeah, massacres, whatever. We even had, at some territories, we even have the knowledge for slaves from some territories, not all. From territories from which my father's line came from, we know that until the 1600s, there were no slaves from that territories because they're up in the mountains, not that easy to be conquered. So there were a bit of negotiations there, whether to have a state or not to have a state. But since it's in the mountains, you don't have a lot of people living there, so you cannot defend. So better to be able to negotiate some stuff with everybody who's coming in. However, other territories which we had a lot of people in them, they were slaves. I mean, that's in the south, in the northern part of Bulgaria, even in some of the southern parts of Bulgaria that are now neighboring with Turkey. So with the Turks, basically.
Oh, well, thank you.
From the Turks,
I mean,
yeah.
it's nice to hear a more personal view. We being in the States, we read about the Ottoman Empire in our history books, but that's about it. It's nice you give it a little bit more personality, and bring it to, obviously your heritage in that part of the world. Very interesting. So thank you for that. And then going a little bit more for current times. Two things. Again, the Freemason bodies, it's a national organization, correct? Not regional. Okay. And so given that, I was trying to, it sounds to me like it's a little bit both idealistic as well as political organizations. I mean, I understand today's lodge organizations. Is that kind of the way it is now? Because you're saying that there were businessmen and the memberships of the various groups kind of go up and down over time. And the fact that it sounds like it was wiped out almost entirely, if not entirely, for a little while there during the Nazi regime, but it came back. So it lived somewhere. And I was kind of wondering how that all works, over in your part of the world.
Okay. First of all, Nazi regime in Bulgaria, we didn't have, just to be clear on that. We had a government which, again, wanted to use every political, not only political instruments to gain more territory, that is with a lot of Bulgarians. That's why we wanted to have our territories regained, because the Germans said, okay, we're going to give you these territories because they're yours, because you have lots of Bulgarians. And they said, okay, we're going to join the pact. That's why we joined. No other idea. No other idea. It was a state which emerged from a lot of wars. I mean, if you look at the history of the Balkan Wars, that was before the First World War, you see that at one point, Bulgarians, Turks, Romanians, and Serbs are against the Greeks. Then the Greeks, Serbians, Romanians, and Bulgarians are against the Turks. Then the Turks, Greeks, Serbians, and Romanians are against the Bulgarians. And that's in 4 years. I mean, it's like a game show. I mean,
A lot of
But
different
anyways.
ideologies. Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. But now here's something that's interesting. If you ask any Bulgarian, and I'm not speaking about the Turkish minority, if you ask any Bulgarian during communist time about Turkey, during communist time, and even until the year 2000, about Turkey, they will say this is enemy number one. Not only because it gained accession into NATO long before we did in 2004. They gained accession, I think, in the 70s, Turkey. 1970s. Not only because of that. During the liberation, or prior to the liberation, the period prior to the liberation, there was a lot of making a lot of history and making a lot of myths in order to say that, in order to bring up the spirit of all these Bulgarians that forgot who they were 450 years ago. You don't understand. 1422 until 1876, the uprising. You have 450 years, which is like 10 generations, even more. No official Bulgarian state. And the idea was to renew, rebuild, and to have another Bulgarian state. So a lot of mythological stuff was put into our culture, invented even. I'm saying it not only as a Bulgarian who is a Freemason and needs to speak the truth. I'm saying it as a person, because I don't like the idea to say that the Turks are bad and that to be 100 years later, after the liberation, to be again the idea, because people are people, doesn't matter. And this official, non-official idea was in the genes of a lot of Bulgarians. Nevertheless, after the liberation, you can see in a lot of the minutes of meetings, or in a lot of the protocols of different municipalities that were formed to whatever, that Bulgarians, Turks, Jews, Armenians, Romanians, Serbs, whatever, we work together. Because you live next to a Jew on your left, next to an Armenian on your right, and in front of you is a Muslim. We're not secularizing our towns like Jerusalem is in 4 quarters. There's no quarter for the Armenians. Yeah, there are 1-2 big cities in which you have that. For example, in Plovdiv, you have an Armenian quarter, you have a Jewish quarter, you have a Greek quarter, you have a Bulgarian quarter, whatever. But it's not this case on a nationwide scale. Concerning the question about the numbers of people and businessmen, unfortunately, 95% of Bulgarian Freemasons do not know what Freemasonry is. I'm saying this as a person who has been not only what is stated here in the official presentation. I'm a brother who has been 2 times in the official, a member of the Grand Ritual Committee of our Grand Lodge. I'm saying it as a brother who has been on 2 mandates as a judge in the Supreme Freemasonic Court, and we had to deal with a lot of court stuff. Yeah, and I'm saying it as a brother who has been to a lot of lodges worldwide, and has been many times with Brian online also during COVID and many other brothers around the world, and we have spoken upon a lot of stuff. Freemason in Bulgaria, 95% of these 12,000 people do not know what it is really.
What do they think it? What? How do they see it? A social club?
I'll tell you. This is off the record. I'll tell you. Though we speak about this together many occasions here in Bulgaria, I'll tell you right away. 15 years ago, the way to become a Freemason, even 20 years ago, was first when you are young, I mean 16, 18, 19, go into the Rotarian programs, Rotaract, to see if you can work together with people, to start gaining knowledge upon some of the ways to work with administrative and not only other NGO stuff, to work with the state, with the municipality, whatever. Then, when you become a Rotarian and you've been 1, 2, 3 years in this position, that position, whatever, someone approaches you and says, okay, guy, do you want to become a Freemason? We see that you're doing well. You're not a drunk guy. You're not a business only seeking person in Rotary. Rotary is a business group. Let's face it. I mean, we as Rotarians, I'm a 20-year Rotarian, we're a business group. However, what we do in terms of the social society is something which is a B product. We work together, and then time to time, we say, okay, let's do this for this municipality. Let's do this for this hospital. Let's do this for this education facility, whatever. Now, there was a couple of years ago, there was a big newspaper, when still newspapers were read and printed on a nationwide scale. On the first page, it was written, "You're not a Freemason. Join the waiting list." I cannot believe what people come into Freemasonry. I'm not saying that they shouldn't become, but you see, my Freemasonic lodge, we are a lodge almost 20 years into existence. We are consecrated in the year 2007. Our process of having someone to join our lodge, because we deal with esoteric substances mostly in topics. We don't speak about economic topics. We don't speak about social society. We speak about the stuff which Freemasonry 6,000 years in the making has been doing. So what we do for people who are seekers of light is like 1 to 2. We have people that waited for 3-4 years to join the club, to join our Freemasonic lodge. And then when they join, we know that they're prepared. We know that they will become a great Freemason. And they do. I have witnessed for the past 4 or 5 years, brothers who came to me, approached me as a seeker. He then became an entered apprentice after 2-3 years of waiting, and we talked on a regular basis. And now they are master masons, and now they're masters of lodges, or for masters. Now they're members of different gun lodges, whatever. And we see that in real life, they obey the moral values and ethic principles that we have in Freemasonry. We don't, however, unfortunately, we do not see that on a wide scale in a lot of the lodges. This is our problem now. We face that problem now. And that's why we have conflicts. And that's why most of the time the conflicts are not dealt with only in an oral way. That's why we, from time to time, say, okay, we just need to leave space for people that want to gain only business contacts abilities, because, let's face it, some members want to be members only because they will have the ability to speak with this or that influential business, political, social, society, cultural strategist, person, whatever. That's why they do it. Mm-hmm. Some come not to be a Freemason. Then they do not seek light. They seek a light life, but not a life full with light. Should I put it this way?
So it's a business, it's a networking kind of thing. They want to meet the right people and grow their business. That's what
unfortunately, I mean, Rotary used to be 2,500 members, gender-wise 50-50, back 15 years ago. Now it's less than 2,000, 70% women. That means, where did the men go? They didn't just die, most of them. They just stopped going to Rotary because, okay, Rotary is business, but let's go into this or that gun lodge in order to have more contacts. Lions, the same situation. They have a declining membership. Rotary, declining membership. Non-governmental other organizations, in terms of Templar societies, in terms of other knighthood societies, declining membership. Freemasonic lodges, booming up. And it's the quick process of making them a Freemason, a full right Freemason, basically a Master Mason, in which a lot of the lodges make mistakes. And then you see in 5 years after that process has started, that constituent lodge or that lodge, whatever, starts to crumble. They have inner problems that are not of Masonic character. That's what happens.
I think I would say, if I had to say what the problem with a lot, just the quality of Masons we're attracting, it's not so much for business. I don't know that many Masons who network here. It's a social club. I'm joining Masonry for the fraternity, for the brotherhood, and that's nothing wrong with the brotherhood, but that's all they see it for. It's like, well, why do I need to dress up? It's just like belonging to a golf club, you know, a golf, a private club, whatever, just to meet people and just to socialize. And it's very casual, and that's all they get out of it. And I think that's only one aspect of it. And I think that's kind of where we're having issues, is people who they don't really see what's available to them. They don't take advantage of what's available to them within Masonry. So similar sort of issue.
What you're saying quite well coincides with what I'm going to make as a remark now. You see, a couple of days ago when we were deliberating prior to the official vote to step out of the gun lodge, we made a little retrospection about nationwide Freemasonic activities. And you see, I stated at one moment that politics started to influence the Freemasonic society, doesn't matter which gun lodge. And now we have that issue again. A gun lodge is always well when you have well-working, I don't want to say powerful in the terms that you're going to understand it, but well-organized, well-working, good atmosphere, constituent lodges. If for some reason politics intervenes through the gun lodge and the gun lodge starts to think that they're not serving the brotherhood, what happens is that the constituent lodges are the ones that start to crumble. And we had in the social society, political, economic, government, whatever, municipality even, times when everything was going smoothly because the gun lodges and mainly the constituent lodges worked not hurdling for another membership fee, not hurdling to make this guy a Freemason because for some reason he is now in power in politics, because that's what happens after every mandate of the parliament. Whoever is not a Freemason and becomes member of parliament, almost 99%, okay, not 100, but 99% of the guys are initiated into some constituent lodge or whatever gun lodge. This is not the way to do it.
No,
and
agreed.
You see, it came down nowadays to the situation in which we have lodges that are not in any grand lodge in Bulgaria, which are the ruling and the place of power for the social system, for the political system. And the grand lodges are trying whatever they can do to have these lodges to become constituent lodges of this or that gun lodge. And we, for example, and other lodges are not happy with that. And that's why, for example, we are leaving. Because we are not into Freemasonry to do business. We're not into Freemasonry to negotiate who is going to be a minister, prime minister, whatever. We're not into Freemasonry to do that. That is something which can happen, but that's not the idea of Freemasonic activities. I go to the meeting of my lodge, on the first degree to speak upon first degree topics, on the second degree to speak upon second degree topics, on the third degree to speak upon third degree topics. And that, in my case, for example, is why for a lot of time the US had, for example, on the $100 bill, that amount of zeros, that amount of ones, and then from one point on, it has that amount change, and so on and so on and so on. We go into arithmosophy, we go into numerology, we go into Kabbalah, we go into every other different teachings that are not intertwined with what is in my pocket outside of the temple.
Okay, yeah, I see similarities, absolutely, with the same kind of questions and desires of outcomes that we have here in the States as well. So I think we're in the same boat, it sounds like.
We are. That's the issue. We are. And it's not only our fault. I mean, that's why we said, okay, we're leaving in order to leave space. Whoever wants to try to do business, because he will not do business. That's not the way. You see, in Kabbalah, for example, it's the intention that states whether you're going to be the winner or the loser in the end. It's the intention.
All right. Any other brother have a question? We're approaching 12 o'clock here, so I'd like to go ahead and wrap it up. Any other brother, any comments or questions? I don't want to cut anybody off. Okay. All right. Brother Dimiter, I really, really want to say thank you. I appreciate this talk. It was very in-depth, and there was a lot to take in. I hope people go back and watch it later. If you're watching us on YouTube at some point in the future, please like and subscribe. Our next stated or unstated meeting is going to be Saturday, May the 24th at 10 a.m. Eastern, and that's going to be Brother John Meek, who is actually from Bulgaria. I was hoping that John would actually make this meeting, but he was speaking on the construction, maintenance, and projection of sacred space within Freemasonry. That should be most interesting. I also want to say, for those of you who are local, May 17th, which is the week before, Virginia Research Lodge will be meeting at Babcock for probably the last time before we move permanently to the home. And Brother Cliff Gregory, who was, unfortunately had some medical issues and he's doing better now, he will give the talk he was going to give in February. It will be on the origins of York Rite Masonry. He talks about the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ, the Temple of Solomon, and the Order of the Knights of the Hospital of St. John, the Hospitallers, and how they were involved with Freemasonry. So should be a great talk. That's in person in Virginia, in Highland Springs. Brother Dimiter, if you want to fly over, we'll be happy to pick you up at the airport, but I don't know. Brother Ray, I hope you can make it down for that. Thank you all for attending. It was great to have decent. I think we had 13 people in attendance today, which is good. I'm concerned these meetings, we don't get enough turnout, and it's like I want to make sure there's enough of an audience to make it worth the presenter's while. But I think we had a decent turnout today. Hopefully, people will check this out on YouTube as well. And anyway, that's all I have. So, brothers, you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much, Brother Christopher.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, brothers, for the questions. Stay safe, be well, happy Easter, and luck and prosperity for you and your families and the lodges and the brothers.
Thank you, everyone. Happy Easter as well.
Thank you.